Welcome to episode 3 of the History Boys Abroad podcast. I'm here again, Graham, and I'm with my co-host, Tony.
Hello.
This week we're going to be talking about Petrus Fernandus Johannes von Hooijdonk. It's quite a mouthful.
Also known as?
Big Pierre.
Big Pierre.
Yeah. So before we do, just to let you know that this is maybe going to be a bit of a smaller podcast this week. Tony is off to the Sonar Festival.
Yep.
Doing dancey things,
yes,
I imagine.
Yes, tomorrow.
Yeah. So we're going to make this a bit smaller. We wanted to kind of go maybe a bit further back at this point, but just wasn't possible this week. So we're going to stick to. And Tony, I think you've got a kind of like for big Dutchmen.
Yeah, I realised this afternoon that we were doing another podcast on a Dutch guy.
Mm-hmm.
Third podcast, 2 out of 3 have been long, tall Dutch strikers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Although this guy is of Moroccan descent, whereas Venegoor is just a big straight up Dutch guy. So yeah, it transpires that we're doing 2 Dutch guys in the first 3 podcasts. But yeah, I thought this was a good idea to do this one as well because Pierre van Hooijdonk obviously has his critics, and obviously in recent times he was responsible for the Chifty deal. Which we'll talk about another time, I think. But yeah, I think...
Do you think there will ever be a History Boys Abroad episode on Shifty?
No, but I'm sure that if any of my friends are listening to this, they're going to be gutting themselves because I did back Chifty right up to the last minute.
I did as well, man. Like, if you go into the huddle board and do a little search, I'll be backing them the whole way.
Yeah, I think it's just more out of optimism than anything. But Van Hooijdonk's record at Celtic was quite impressive, and he came at a time for Celtic when things were actually worse than the previous podcast we spoke about, the 6-2 game.
Mm-hmm.
This period of modern Celtic history was completely appalling. So yeah, it's quite apt that we're going to start with someone who was part of a very memorable season and a very memorable trophy, which we now consider to be not that special. But so yeah, it's let's get into it with Van Hooijdonk.
So do you want to tell us a bit about his kind of background in Holland before he came to us?
I think he was on the books of NEC Breda, which for me, I don't know anything about NEC Breda. I know Breda is a city in Holland, and I remember when he signed that it was a very exotic sounding name, which was one of the only memories I really have of it because I was relatively young when we signed him. And he started off there, and I think he was let go, and he went to Roosendaal, and he scored quite a lot of goals there. I think we spoke before the podcast about he played on the right wing maybe for Roosendaal, and he played there. Obviously, we're talking late 80s when he started his career. 89, he started his career, so a long time ago, and obviously a lot of the information we can't find, but just to give a bit of context, I think he started his career as a right winger and played approximately 70 games for Roosendaal and scored 33 goals.
Yeah, that's what I've got,
Yeah, and then for there he went on to Breda, which was his local team, and I'm sure that's the team he supported, and then he scored 71 goals in 99 games.
That's an incredible record, man.
We spoke previously about the Dutch league being very
dog ears.
They score a lot of goals there, but I don't know if this was pre that, because obviously Alfonso Alves and even Huntelaar and these players in Samaras, these players were many years after these goals that he scored. So he scored 90. He played 99 and scored 71 for NEC Breda, and I think that it was actually Davy Hay who was brought in as a scout, the chief scout for Celtic, that actually managed to convince the board to part with 1.2 million, which today's money, I don't really know how much. I know it would be a lot more. So it was a lot of money for Celtic at that time. And yeah.
I just remember, like, I don't know about you, but at that time I had a paper round, and I can remember I think it was the back of the Sunday Mail, and this player had just come out of like nowhere. There hadn't been any build up to Van Hooijdonk at all. It'd just been a case of he was on the back page, the money was there, and he had signed.
Yeah.
You know?
Was that a picture with him and Tommy Burns?
I think it was a picture of him and Tommy Burns, and what it reminds me of, there was a time when we signed Alan Stubbs.
Yeah.
I don't. Did this happen to you where you went down to Alton Towers when you were at high school?
Never been to Alton Towers.
No.
Never.
For some reason, like every year in our high school, we went to Alton Towers, and it was like a 6-hour bus journey. So you would get up at like 5 a.m, drive down there, go to Alton Towers for the day, and then drive back.
Yeah.
And then that day, when I came back, we'd signed Alan Stubbs, and there'd been no build-up. And I love it when those signings happen. You know, like we just from absolutely nowhere. The press haven't got a kind of. The press don't know anything about it. We just snap into a signing. That was the first time. But with Van Hooijdonk, it was the first time I'd really witnessed that. You know.
Yeah, I think that you're talking about it's obviously pre-internet, very very much pre-internet, but it wasn't pre-teletext. It wasn't pre-teletext, and they'd be on the teletext every day, and that was religious for me. But yeah, I don't seem to remember any sort of build-up. But obviously, my memory's hazy. We're talking 21 years ago, so it was a long time ago. But yeah, he was brought in by Davy Hay, signed, and the manager at the time was Tommy Burns.
And this is 2 months after we've just lost the League Cup final to the Raith Rovers.
Exactly, as a friend pointed out, that was one of the lowest times of that whole fucking decade. But we signed him in January, the 1994-1995 season. Mm-hmm. And he signed about 3 days after we played the Huns.
That's right, yeah.
In the New Year, the old traditional game that we used to play them every New Year. Mm-hmm. And the team, if I can just find the team, if you give me 1 second, I can find the team that actually ran out for Celtic that day. Just to let you know, the score was 1 each. So it was 4th of January, and it was at Mordor. 1995. Let me just tell you the Celtic team. So hope you're
this is going to be bad.
Hope you're sitting down. So Pat Bonner in goals.
Nice, good start.
Okay, it gets better and then it dips. It's like it's going to be like that. Tom Boyd,
legend. Can't stand his commentary on Celtic TV, but legend anyway.
Yep. Stuart Gray.
God Almighty.
Brian O'Neill.
Oof.
Mike Galloway.
Oh Jesus Christ.
Phil O'Donnell.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Brian McLaughlin. I think Brian McLaughlin was about 4'14" or something like that.
He looked like Eddie Munster as well, didn't he?
He was. I always remember him being extremely fucking wee and built like nothing. So Brian McLaughlin into McStay, and then we have Paul Byrne of the. I'm pretty sure Paul Byrne's a bit of a legend on the huddle board
because he's cocky. He's getting glad out.
With Danny McGrain tried to do a serious interview and he's just sitting heavily nonchalant with his banger out. Anyway, Paul Byrne, Andy Walker and John Collins. And then halfway through the game or whenever it was, Chris Hay. Oh my God, Chris Hay came on for Paul Byrne. Paul Byrne actually scored the goal Paul Byrne scored the goal at that game.
That was when it was like in off the post, or wasn't that like a drive?
Remember, I've not looked at the game, but
I think it was a long drive and off the post or something like that.
Yeah. A lot of these games, like obviously they would have been shown on TV some level back then, but most of the footage we have from this era are on YouTube, and they're from VHS.
Aye.
And the quality is really, really sketchy. So anyway, that gives you an idea of where Celtic were at that season. And you spoke about the Raith Rovers game, and you spoke about needing galvanised.
Aye.
And I think.
Do you think Andy Walker spent most of the game just like criticising all the Celtic team?
Aye, going round, talking into his hand. And he's got a microphone in it. Yeah. But this is when Andy Walker was a good guy with Celtic, and obviously he's got a bit of shite reputation these days, but that's how it goes with pundits and commentators. So anyway, Vinegar comes in. Vinegar, fucking Van Hooijdonk. It's because it's the same kind of name, sort of. Van Hooijdonk comes in a few days later, and we could obviously been doing with him earlier on this season, but it was obviously the board had realised that things were getting worse and something had to be done. And 1.2 million seemed like quite a lot of money to spend at that point. And that was actually his debut with the Hearts game. It was actually a run of 3 winning draws in a row that we had at that time. Yeah.
You were talking earlier about how that we had a really disappointing season, and I think every Celtic fan around the world knows that the Hampden season was an absolute fucking write-off.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's just no one liked playing there. No one liked being the fans. You were far away from the pitch. It was just an awful experience, man.
Yeah, and it's ironic that the only trophy that we won that season was in Hampden.
Yeah,
and the only trophy. It was the first trophy for about 5 or 6 years, and it just happened to be where it was our home, But Van Hooijdonk's debut, he scored, and I really did struggle to find footage of the goal.
I couldn't either.
It's just really difficult to find these things. However, I've spoke to a lot of people and I've read the reports and I've read the bits and the bobs, and by all accounts, it was like an extraordinary goal. So
I got a little. I can't remember what the website was, but I got a little kind of description that said that Pierre pulled down a ball from Mike Galloway.
Yeah,
he joggled it past a couple of Hearts players and then just battered it into the net.
I think it was quite a surprising goal in the end. I don't think anyone expected him to finish it in the way he did. It would be great. It would be great to see it, and I'm sure it does exist in some VHS somewhere, Betamax maybe. Who knows? But So instantly he scores a goal against Hearts, and one each, and then I think for the rest of the season he's scoring intermittently.
He didn't get too many. I mean, I think the next goal came against St Mirren in the Scottish Cup. It was a tap in from about a yard. I think that was the 28th of January.
Yeah.
He got one goal, a double in February against Meadowbank Thistle.
I saw that at Meadowbank Thistle. My goodness.
He then got a double against Aberdeen at the beginning of March. A couple of days later, he got a goal against the Huns, which was the one where he basically battered it in, just inside the box, battered it into the bottom corner.
Is this the 3-0 game?
Aye, that was a game. The game we were talking about earlier. Aye.
I came across the Celtic. We were playing these random friendlies throughout mid-season, and we were playing like random games against big teams. In February that season, 6 weeks after Van Hooijdonk signed, we played Real Madrid in Spain.
Aye,
we played Real Madrid in Spain, and we were playing against Real Madrid, and I think they were playing. I've no idea why we done this and why they done it, because it was mid-season for them as well. But they had Redondo, Butragueno, and Alfonso in their team. Now this was like
nice.
Those three. Like, Redondo is like regarded as one of the greatest modern midfielders according to the Real Madrid fans I speak to. Butragueno is Butragueno, and Alfonso, I always remember him for having an amazing name and playing for Betis, but he was an international at the time. And and we played them, but they beat us 2-0. And I remember reading an article about it. Tommy Burns was talking about how, regardless of like the result, it was always good for Celtic to get that experience and this and that.
Aye.
So it was a bit.
Real Madrid had like that white top with like the very pale purple with like the Becco in the front. I bet that's what the top was.
It may have been, but apparently Real Madrid fielded a weakened side, but they still had Butragueno, Redondo and Alfonso and probably a couple more. But Celtic, Van Hooijdonk played in that game, and obviously we got beat, but it just stuck out to me that these games, I'm sure if anyone remembers these games or has any reasons why we used to do that, they can maybe let us know. I'd be really interested to know why we were doing that mid-season, but Tommy Burns seemed to think it was beneficial for the squad, and obviously by the end of the season we had won a trophy which we hadn't done for many years, so maybe, who knows, in some weird way that it did work. But this was during the time when you only played 36 games in a league. And was this during the time when you only got 2 points for a win?
It was 2 points for a win at that time.
Right.
We were one of the last countries or the last leagues to actually take on the 3 points.
Yeah.
So the next goal, as you were talking about there, the next goal that Van Hooijdonk scored that season was in the cup final.
Yeah.
So that was basically his goals finished for that season. He scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 goals after signing in January, which is okay when you come to a new league and stuff like that. And you are competing with Willie Faulkner and Andy Walker up front. So.
Oh, Willie Faulkner, man. Willie Faulkner, Chris Hay, Andy Walker, Paul Byrne. So in the final, obviously against Airdrie were the division below us, and we scored in the 9th minute, and it was a Tosh McKinley ball, and it was fucking amazing. The ball. We spoke about Mahi last week in the 6-2 game, playing that ball across the box for the last goal for Sutton, and it was inch perfect. This ball by Tosh McKinley was absolutely brilliant, and Pierre just all over the top of his guy, and just pings it into the corner. What a finish! 9 minutes, and then
we shot it for 81 minutes.
Well, for the rest of the game, before that even happened, Pierre got injured.
Oh, did I? Can't remember that.
Pierre got injured, and he was subbed after 39 minutes for Willie Falconer.
Oh, nice.
I can't say that those words without laughing, really. So Willie Falconer comes on, and for the rest of the game, the nerves were obviously Celtic fans we hadn't won anything for a long time. So playing that amount of time, and Airdrie had chances, and bearing in mind we're a full division above them, and we're Celtic, and they're Airdrie. I don't even think they exist anymore.
It was pure nerves, man. I just remember it was such a battle of attrition. We just looked so nervous. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we got there in the end. Where were you watching it?
Oh, I have no idea. Can't remember.
No, I can always remember it because I had to. I was getting looked after by my nana and papa. My nana and papa were both deaf, and my nana was like a Celtic supporter. My papa was a Rangers supporter. So we were watching it in the house, and just remember jumping up and down, and they had no idea what had happened, because they couldn't hear anything.
It's quite a dynamic.
It was, and then my mum and dad had been out for the day, and they came back, and a scarf had dropped off a supporters bus. A Celtic supporters bus, and they brought me this scarf, and that was my first Celtic scarf. Yeah. And I took that for a year. Basically, I stole a scarf. Yeah. I took it for the first few years of being a Celtic fan. It was great. Yeah, yeah. That was such a memorable day, that.
Yeah. And that was the year of Hampden, as it were. We played all our home games there, and obviously we won that trophy there, so some sort of weird
What did you say the position was that we finished?
Celtic, 4th in the league. Actually, we were on 51 points that season. That's what we finished on, 51 points. And Motherwell came second, and Hibs came third. And
Motherwell had a decent team at the time. I think they had Paul Lambert and maybe Dougie Arnott and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair. I mean, yeah. But for Celtic to be finishing 4th, obviously. The Scottish Cup was the big thing for us that year, but yeah, to finish 4th, and again we spoke about the Huns being absolutely riddled with EBTs and all that. We're kind of taking into that era, if not, we are in that era when all of this was taking place, because in the next season we were up against Laudrup. I'm pretty sure Gaza was involved. We were up against Basil Bowley. We were up against
Basil Bowley, who'd won the Champions, won the European Cup or whatever.
Won the European Cup months before.
It's a great signing, you know what I mean?
And they had these players that were coming in on a lot of money, and this was the time. Obviously, Celtic were at their lowest ebb, and they are still splashing the cash. But the next season was significantly better as a Celtic fan. We still struggled trophy wise, but we signed Cadeti, Vigos, and Tom to add a little bit of flair to the team, I guess. Obviously, I've mentioned before about foreign players. When you're a wee guy, when you sign a foreign player, you think he's clearly better than everyone else. And my friend made the point that we hadn't really signed any big foreigners since the Poles, the 2 Poles, the Dovcheks and the Jakinovskis. Yeah. We had Rudy Vata on our books, but Rudy Vata is the most bland foreign name ever. It could be Cranhill, who knows, So when
One thing I noticed about that season, basically, I think what you're talking about was the kind of it was like the turning of the tide when it came to Celtic.
Yeah.
Because not only did those guys come in, Charlie Nicholas, Paul Byrne, Tony Mowbray, Mark McNally, Willie Faulkner, Andy Walker, Mike Galloway, Lee Martin, and Rudy Vata all left.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a total turning of the tide. You know, it was like the kind of old guard were leaving.
Yeah.
Obviously we kept a couple like Paul McStay and stuff like that, but it was like old guard coming in, going out, and we were bringing these new guys in, like Martin Vicorth, the Cadettes, and everything.
Yeah,
It was an interesting time, and it's probably the beginning of the modern era. You know what I mean? It's the beginning of the kind of modern football era for Celtic.
Well, there's one thing that we should mention about Celtic. As I say, Tommy Burns was given that money to buy that player. This was when Fergus McCann took over. This was almost a full year before McCann took over Celtic. He was March '94, I think. And Van Hooijdonk signed in January 10th of 95, so 1994-95 season. So you can start to see the impact that Fergus McCann had on Celtic. He was allowing money to be spent, and Celtic were known for being tight as fuck.
That's the thing that I hate when the zombies talk about these tainted titles that we apparently won over the last few years. What the fuck was that then?
Yeah.
When they were so kind of heavily financially doped.
Yeah.
Even before the EBT scandal, they were basically buying players from either the bank account of David Murray, or like some kind of overdraft.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they had these like Hooijdonk and like the English players that they brought in, even like Terry Butcher and stuff like that. I mean, they were signing players on a different level to everyone else.
No, I know. It was when you think back, like I said, you think back, hindsight will give you a better idea of why these players were coming. But however, let's not go into that. Let's keep on track. So we obviously the second season of Van Hooijdonk's Celtic career was also technically the second full season of Fergus McCann, and that's when Cadetti came. That's when Vigos came, and obviously the Cadetti thing with the Jim Farry thing, and then Fergus spoke out on that. But Andreas Thom came in, and probably the most memorable game of the 95-96 season was the 3-3 game against the Huns, the Deed Huns at Mordor, and it's a really amazing game to watch back. Like I've managed to find bits and bobs of it more. You know, it's the same as the last week's podcast. I was saying it's difficult to find a full 90 minutes of these things, but you can sort of piece it all together, and there's lots of extended highlights. But the 3-3 game was like back and forth, really, really interesting. And yeah, Celtic finished, just to jump ahead a little bit for the time being, Celtic finished second this season. We'll get to the points later.
Yeah, that's the kind of the unsettling bit. But was it that season? Like, this is actually something I meant to look up before we started, but I forgot all about it. Do you remember? Like, it was one of the rare games. It was on TV at the time. It was a cup game against Dundee United when Dundee United were in the division below us, and we were getting beat 1-0. So this would have been the time when it was just the two stands.
Yeah.
And so that would have been the 95-96 season.
Yeah.
We were getting beat 1-0 until literally the last minutes of the match when Andy, Tom and Pierre scored a goal each, and we beat them 2-1. Do you remember this?
Is this against Rangers or Dundee United?
No, it was Dundee United. It was Dundee United at home, but Dundee United were in the division below us.
I've got the information. Yeah, I've got it here. Peter Grant was playing.
That's
it was Simon Donnelly.
I remember it was just like the best at that point. It was the best comeback I'd ever seen. You know, just rapid in 2 minutes, which is he overtook them. It was great.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously the signings of these players sort of coincided with a better performance in the league. Celtic obviously didn't win anything that season. Celtic came second as opposed to coming fourth. And this season, I think we only finished about 4 points off the top.
Yeah, and we actually we only get one defeat, which was 2 less than Rangers got, who won the league, obviously. Yeah. And the 11 draws that were the problem.
Well, see, this was a Huns team that had Gaza and all that. Like, Gaza was definitely playing that season. Mm-hmm. And you had your Mikhailichenko, he was playing as well, and all these other players that were all drafted in.
Kuznetsov.
Yeah, all these these big foreign international players that play for their countries coming in and being paid money that was obviously illegal. But Van Hooijdonk scored 26 goals that season, and the next 3 top scorers were all Huns.
Aye. I mean, that's how you won the league, isn't it? Spread your goals over a few people.
It was like Gordon Jury and McCoist and that. But Celtic finished second on 83 and Rangers had 87, and Aberdeen were third on 55.
Aye, it was a massive difference.
30 points.
The big thing about that season was that, as I was saying earlier, like, if it had been the season before, when we had 2 points for a win, we would have won the league.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got to a stage where we would have had enough points, but it was just the fact that they changed it. And obviously that's kind of petty and whatever, but I mean, to me, when I was a kid, it was a massive thing at the time, because when I realised that, I was like, man, we would have won the league, It was like, it was a massive thing, just because the fact that we only lost 1 game that season as well,
Yeah.
If it was if we deserved it.
Yeah. But again, that was a massive, upturn in form and upturn in optimism and positivity around Celtic in that season, because we performed much better. In the 3-3 game, just to go back to it, that's the game that everyone will probably remember more for Andy Tom.
Oh, what a goal, yeah.
And like when I was been speaking to my friends, it's like the first thing they say. One of my friends said that I think he went to that game and he dogged his football training. He was supposed to go to football training instead, like went to Hampden, because we're all, like me and most of my friends are from like very, very, very close to Hampden. We're from that south side area. Mm-hmm. But Andy Tom, the second thing that's probably more famous than actual Van Hooijdonk's goal was the save. That horrible
pig.
That guy in goals. He's one of the worst. He's one of the worst for me. But the save is it's just unbelievable. And I think it might be a Tosh McKinley corner. It might be a cross. I'm not entirely sure I think it was a corner, and at point blank range, Van Hooijdonk volleys it above him, and he manages to claw it out and put it away. And it's just, to be fair, it's an amazing save. But that never really stopped anything, because Van Hooijdonk went on to score a very, very good header, and Tosh McKinley swung it in again.
When Van Hooijdonk scores it, my brother's actually in the background, because he's in the front row.
Yeah.
And he puts his hands on the kind of advertising board and then stands up when it's going towards the goal. It's because you see it in slow motion. You're like, it's really cool, man.
Yeah, that's class.
Yeah, but do you remember? Like, this is one thing that I never looked up. But do you remember when, I think it was David Robertson scored for Rangers?
Yeah,
and it was ruled out for offside.
Yes, and then there was a whole 5-minute window where they were. Was it when they were the referees were talking or something like that?
No. What it was is, because I was watching it in the house, the TV had put the score on for Rangers.
Oh, was it and the commentary never realised?
Aye, so for 5 minutes we thought we were like losing or drawing or whatever, but the goal hadn't even been allowed.
Yeah.
That's fucking mental, man.
Yeah, that would never happen now. But Van Hooijdonk's header was amazing. Like, that was just him through and through. Amazing in the air. Angles the ball, and we're talking about Gorham, who was one of the best goalkeepers of that time, probably in the UK, you would say, because he won a lot and he done relatively well for that team. That I don't want to even mention their name, so to beat him in that angle and really put it in the opposite corner was something special. And his celebration, this was the equaliser, by the way. Van Hooijdonk's goal was the third. Celtic, so it was like 3 each. Who scored the second goal? John Hughes, was it? No, John Collins. John Collins with a penalty. John Collins penalty. I'm sure it was a John Collins penalty, and he took it very well. But it was the exact same end where Samaras scored the second of his 2-0 game goal, and it was the same celebration. The same board, climbs over, opens up his arms. It's uncanny. It's the exact same celebration, and the fans are giving it all over the top of him. It's fucking amazing, man. And one other thing I want to point out, before we get to the last season, and it's not his best season, was the strips that we wore. I think the first strip that I can remember Van Hooijdonk wearing was the white one with like the yellow sort of flash across it, and with like the green flash going the other way.
It was quite jazzy.
It was jazzy. I'm really trying to get a hold of that strip. I've been trying to find it. It's not that easy to find.
I bought it out of it was like JJB Sports or JD Sports in the Paisley Centre. Remember going in and buying that shit.
Yeah, it's it's an amazing strip, and that was I think that was our away strip. And we had a third strip at that time, I'm pretty sure, and it was the black one, and it sort of had
like a barcode.
The barcode strip, C.R. Smith, and this is another one that I'm trying to get my hands on.
Aye,
that's another one I'm trying to get my hands on. But these are like synonymous with Pierre and his his contribution to Celtic. I think one of the most memorable strips of the 90s for Celtic, just to finish my strip tangent here. Was the home strip we had when you had like the in the green part of the hoops, you had a lot of like Celtic designs. Do you remember that?
It was like a big hoop, small hoop, wasn't it?
Aye, in the back, in one of the hoops it said in green, on the green hoop in green in Celtic writing it said Celtic.
That's right.
Patterns, and it's just like, and I'm pretty sure it had a green and white like proper collar on it, like
green white hooped collar.
I think it was like that. And that again, when I think of that, when I think of strips, I instantly associate them with a player, you know. And that for me, that's Van Hooijdonk. So he finished 95-96 with 26 goals, top scorer in the league.
One thing just before we move on from is actually that header. One thing I noticed the other night was, like, see when you get really tall players like Fellaini when Belgium were playing Italy in the Euros, when a corner comes across, he sometimes tends to just kind of stand and try and head the ball because he's so tall.
Yeah.
But one of the things about Pierre Van Hooijdonk was that he had such a fucking brilliant leap.
Yeah.
So like he was massive. He was what 6'3".
Yeah.
And even then he still had a massive like jump as well, which made him fucking deadly in the box. You know.
Yeah. Deadly in the shivers as well, apparently.
Aye?
I'm only joking. Him and Brian McLaughlin standing next to each other in the shirts. So anyway,
Wayne's arm holding an apple.
Yeah. So anyway, on to his last season, which by this point, you know, he's scored a lot of goals for Celtic. And,
Cadete has come in the 1st of April of obviously the season before. He came in a lot earlier than that, but obviously we had the problems with the SFA.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's us now got a strike force.
See, if I can just ask here, I couldn't really find confirmation. Was there no transfer windows back then?
No, there was no transfer windows at that point.
That's madness. So this was at the point we're starting to build the Three Amigos, or bring them together.
Aye.
The Quattro Amigos as well. We had Andy Tom.
Andy Tom was included in it sometimes, but he wasn't really as psychotic as the rest of them. So.
Yeah. So we had Andy Tom, George Cadete, Paolo Di Canio, and Pierre Van Hooijdonk. And they're all forwards. They're all forwards pretty much as well.
The thing that interests me from that season was looking at the signings. We signed Tommy Johnson for £2.3 million.
Yeah.
And we signed Paolo Di Canio for £1.5 million.
Canio coming from AC Milan. I mean, as a wee guy, these are signings that you do remember, because AC Milan they're AC Milan. They're one of the biggest names in world football, and for us to be signing a player during the 90s was just like, is this real? It's like when we signed Rafael Scheidt for all his... He was a Brazilian international, and we know that was a lot of shite after that, but when you hear that, you're like, Jesus Christ, we actually got a Brazilian. You're instantly better. Celtic are instantly better than everyone.
Aye.
So bringing in like Cadete and that, and we had these 4 amazing players. Hopefully they were supposed to play in tandem, but obviously it didn't transpire.
I think, when you look back at some of the scores from that season when we had the 4 of them playing, if you're looking at a 4-2-4 when you've got like Tom in one wing, Di Canio in another, Cadete and Van Hooijdonk through the middle, that's fucking unbelievable.
We also signed McNamara in 95.
Aye. It's just the problem we seemed to have was actually, just going back, one thing that we missed out was the season before when we played Paris Saint-Germain. Remember when Van Hooijdonk missed the gilt-edged chance with a header, and they said it was because the lights blinded him?
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to bring that up is because I was going to talk about the European football, and that's when we played Hamburg the next season.
Yep.
But we played Hamburg with a team with the four up front, and then our centre mids were Peter Grant and Morten Vikost.
Yep.
So you're essentially, as our team, our team was essentially leaving the kind of defensive work on Morten Vikost and Peter Grant against a team like Hamburg.
Yeah.
It was absolute. It was a madness. It was madness.
And this was Tommy Burns, wasn't it? This was like the.
Aye.
This was the period, playing the Celtic way, as they call it, when we're really trying to play attacking football.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, on paper, putting those four guys up top, should really provide something. But getting horsed, I think we got beat home and away from Hamburg, so I think
the thing
in aggregate, maybe.
Aye, I mean the thing about Vikos was he ended up a good centre mid, but this was like his first season.
Yeah,
and he's playing as part of a 2-man midfield. It was just a.
I think. Yeah. I mean, we signed Vigos from was it Dundee?
Dundee, aye. We swapped him $500,000 plus Barry Smith.
Yeah, I mean, obviously coming from Dundee to Celtic and then playing in Europe was a bit of a leap. So his last season, obviously, this is when Van Hooijdonk's reputation was starting to get noticed, and he became probably the focal point of the Celtic team, and he was scoring a lot of goals. So it's natural in football, as we know, that if you're doing quite well, then you ask, I want more money.
Aye.
I want a contract. I want a new contract. And this is when, this final season, things start to get very sour between him and Celtic and the fans.
It's starting from the beginning of the season, you know what I mean? He was left out of some games at the beginning of the season, so it was like, it wasn't just something that came to a head at the end, it was ongoing.
Yeah.
I remember he came back, because that was my first season as a season ticket holder, and there was probably my kind of biggest memory of Van Hooijdonk was in that season. It was October, we were playing Motherwell at home.
Yeah.
And fucking Gordon Marshall's in goals, and he decides to. Well, Tom Boyd gives him a shitty back pass, and Marshall has to run at his box, and then him and Lee McCulloch, who's up front for Motherwell, miss the ball at the same time, and then Gordon Marshall wrestles Lee McCulloch to the ground and gets sent off. So Stuart Kerr comes on the park and saves the penalty.
Yeah.
I think it's a penalty, maybe it's not a penalty, but I think whatever happens, they don't score. And then in the last seconds of the match, Pierre Van Hooijdonk steps up to win with 10 men. And that was just, for me, that was him becoming that was hero status at that point, you know what I mean? Like, coming back from 10 men and win the game in the last seconds, it was amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it was a brilliant time.
So, his final season, it was, he obviously left on a very shite note. To put it, to be honest, like, if anyone was to say what he said now,
aye,
then he would be hounded out of Celtic Park. So the reason that things ended quite sourly for Van Hooijdonk, and why up until not that long ago he was still thought of as a bit of a dick, was that when he was being interviewed, I think it was in a radio show, or I'm not sure, but Celtic were trying to get him onto a new contract, and Tommy Burns was like, "We're going to make him an offer and a new deal, etc., etc." And then he came out and openly said that, and for Celtic at this time, this was a lot of money. He came out and said, "This is Van Hooijdonk. 7,000 may be good for a homeless person, but 7,000 a week is not good enough for a top class forward." Mm-hmm. I mean, like, when
you think about that at the time as well, like, even now, I don't think there'll be many players in our squad, our current squad, that are on $7,000 as a basic. I think $7,000 as a basic is probably about the middle part of our payments. I think a large percentage of our squad will be under $7,000.
It really depends on. Normally, the first 11 would be on probably over 10, but if you're looking at your Callum McGregors, your Liam Hendersons, your
Ryan Christie,
Scott Allen, these guys, they'll be on less than 7. Bearing in mind, £7,000 back then is more. It's times have changed, so that amount of money back then would have been a lot of money.
Yeah.
And as I say, for the time of where Celtic were, that was great. That's a very good offer. But it's just the fact that he thought it was okay to say that, in public.
Especially at a club like Celtic, where we have this kind of history of charity work and stuff like that. It was ill-advised, you know.
I mean, it's yeah, and as he, when he left Celtic, it was under this cloud of shite, and then obviously he went to Nottingham Forest where he done all right, but again he started his stuff and he went on strike and all that down there. So maybe it was just he was just a cock.
I looked at his kind of his goal scoring after he left us, and some of it's pretty frightening.
Yeah,
he got 36 and 77 for Forest.
Yeah, they were even in the Premier League at that point.
I think they were Premier League, but then I think they maybe get relegated after his first.
Maybe that's probably left them and they got relegated. That type of guy.
Yeah, and his next season he was at Vitesse Arnhem and he scored 25 in 29 games.
Yeah.
For Benfica he scored 19 and 30. For Feyenoord he scored 52 in 61 games, which is a fucking crazy record, man. And then Fenerbahce he got 32 goals in 53 games.
Has to be said, that's a fucking great career. Like,
aye. One thing that's quite notable about it is apart from Breda, and apart from if you don't add his he had another spell at Feyenoord just before he retired. If you don't add that, he never spent more than 100 games at a club.
Yeah.
Which is kind of I don't know, I think it's quite strange for a footballer. I mean, you'd think 100 games is only really 2.5 seasons.
Well, if you're playing 36 a season and you maybe have a couple of injuries, it's probably, call it...
3 seasons?
3 seasons. Aye. But we know that he wasn't... I know he played... He's probably more... If you were to ask... I've spoke to Turkish people and they remember Van Hooijdonk very, very well. If they saw Fenerbahce, he done very well there. But he's probably not that famous for Celtic. He's probably more famous for Feyenoord. I think he won the UEFA Cup with them, and I remember him scoring 2 absolutely banging free kicks against the deed cunts.
Yeah. 42 games for Holland as well. So
he was of a certain standard that we would probably struggle to get now. But when he left Celtic, I think his last goals in the league was a double against Hibs.
I don't know about his last goals, but I know his last appearance was 1st of March when he came off the bench against Hearts.
1st of March, and then he left a week after that, and he was subbed. This is at the point I think when he was starting his shite, Celtic, looking back, they were dropping him. We had players you can drop him, you still get Andy Tom, Cadet, and Di Canio. You know what I mean? So yeah,
we definitely had the players to drop him, but I don't know. You've got somebody of that talent. I mean, even that game at Ibrox, the 3-1 game.
Yeah,
Van Hooijdonk didn't start that.
No, I think that game was literally 2 days before he officially left Celtic, so he probably wasn't even in the country, to be honest. He would have been gone.
It's crazy, It's we just had this talent and we just, I don't know. But since then, he's obviously kind of got back into kind of some kind of idea of a good books. He came across for the Tommy Burns match, so he played in that charity match. But I think it's good to kind of end in this quote from Fergus McCann when he's talking about the Three Amigos in general, but I think it applies quite well to Van Hooijdonk. He said, quote, "I'm not surprised by what's happened to any of them. What does surprise me is that someone is willing to pay to take trouble off your hands."
Pretty apt.
Yeah. I mean, for Nottingham Forest, it didn't really work out. They paid 4.5 million for him and then he went on strike. He scored a few goals for them, but he's always been a bit of a troublemaker. His transfer fees never really went up after that. I
mean, 4.5 is still a lot of money, and Celtic pretty much made 3 times what they spent on him.
He scored a lot of goals for us, and we made a lot of money from him. So I mean,
and a little bit of spin I want to put on this is obviously everything that happened. Would you take that deal now? If I was to say this guy's going to come in, he's going to be a bit of a cock. He's going to divide the fans. He's going to leave under this cloud of shite, and he's going to hold you to ransom, and he's going to cause negative things. But he's going to score a lot of goals for you. Would you have it?
I don't know. I mean, if you put it that kind of negatively as well, then it's kind of a case of we can always find somebody to score his goals.
Well, not well. Is that right? Because we have Timo Pukki. We have I could name many. But I think his goals tally for Celtic was 57 and 92.
It's a great record.
Which is up there with the best of them. So I think what I can take from this anyway is that while he was a bit of a dick, he was pretty fucking good.
He was shit hot.
for everyone, for every team he played, he scored goals and done what he had to do, and also he could score free kicks.
Aye,
It's always good. Yeah.
When you look at the kind of dross that he came into as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking earlier about that. Is it Jim Slavin we were talking about that played 3 games for us? I mean, he was in one of our defences when he joined. You know, it's crazy that was. We had a team. We had a defence that was made up of like Brian O'Neill, Stuart Gray, and Jim Slavin, and it's mental to think that Van Hooijdonk was coming into that. I mean, what did he think when he went into the training sessions when he was involved? There's always that story about Di Canio where he like stormed off of Barrowfield and like walked to Celtic Park because he was saying that everyone was shit and they couldn't pass the ball to him. I mean, Pierre Van Hooijdonk must have felt like that as well. He must have had it worse than Di Canio, because at least when Di Canio was there was other people. Yeah,
I can believe that as well. I can believe that about Di Canio. But yeah, so just to end on that, like I think 57 and 92 is a great record, and he's since said a lot of nice things about Celtic in the press.
They always do, though, don't they? They always regret it.
They tend to regret it, but then when you're 20, he signed for Celtic when he was 26. When you're 26 years old and you're getting paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, and you're moving to a foreign country and you're a bit of a nutter anyway, it kind of goes without saying that you're going to be a bit of a fucking idiot, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we'll ever do a programme on the Three Amigos because we've done this already. But the fact that in that season we lost, the end of that season we lost Van Hooijdonk, Cadet and Di Canio.
Yeah.
That is such a massive loss to any squad. You know, I know the next season we got Larson.
Yeah.
But just losing those 3 players. I mean, Di Canio himself went on to have an amazing career in England, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, so it's nice to think that we brought these players in and sort of, you know, your Di Canio and your I guess Van Hooijdonk and Di Canio really only, but they went on.
Went to Bradford for a while.
And then the rest is history. But these guys went on and are more famous for being in England than being with us. But you know, we put them on the map in the UK to begin with, and it's an interesting time for Celtic. That whole decade was just like horrible, and then obviously since then it's just got better and better and better, and long may it continue.
It was kind of symbolic as well because of like the building of the new stadium and stuff like that. These guys were coming in at the right time. It was moving from the kind of old guard into the kind of young, kind of modern, like foreign players as well. So it was a weird time, but it was a good time as well. Like everyone enjoyed going to the games at that point. So
yeah.
Right, so let's see what Twitter had to say about Pierre Van Hooijdonk. I asked you guys out there if you had any memories or any stories about him, and a few of you got in touch. So one guy, Robert Sherry, who is at politest_Ouija, said loved the songs at that time. So I'm not sure exactly what he was talking about.
He's talking about Pierre. There's only one.
But that was such a bad song.
It's not the best.
The next one is Liam at Liam's Scullion, and he said the save by the flying pig at Ibrox in the 3H game.
Yep.
How that fat cunt got to that, I'll never know.
Some sweary words.
Yeah, but yeah, we've already spoken about that. But he put off some saves, and even in that game at Celtic Park, where we get beat 1-0 by them, and Pierre missed the penalty.
Yeah.
And then after that, he had a chance that Andy Gorham should never have got near. You know what I mean? And the bastard.
Yeah.
So. At Celtic_Vines said favourite moment was him scoring 2 free kicks versus the Huns in Europe for Feyenoord.
And it was the 2 free kicks he scored were completely identical.
Aye, that's right, yeah. They're kind of low, weren't they? Like,
low and into the exact same corner, the exact same position. So I think it was close, it was in goals as well.
Aye. So at Celtic_Vines said I was in McCool's before an Ian Brown gig. So, there you go. And Hammy at Glas Shoe Hammy 86. He said missing a penalty against the Huns, goaling his debut versus Hearts, and scored a few against the Huns. Wish it was more. So that was some nice tweets about Pierre Van Hooijdonk. We've spoken about some of those things, and we've also got some feedback on the Huddle board. And the guys in the Huddle board were talking about last week when we were discussing the 6-2 game, and I think you were talking about the ball boys behind the goals.
Yeah, that's right.
And how like Kieran Tierney did it, etc. Well, Quagmire on the huddle board said that he thinks that he said, I'm pretty sure the ball boy nearest the camera behind the goal is actually Darren O'Day. So yeah, Darren O'Day loves Hun scalping. So
I mean, you could tweet Darren O'Day and ask him. He's quite active on Twitter.
You think? I'm gonna do
why not?
that. Let's get that done. Yeah. So that was the kind of Twitter and huddleboardness of the show. Yeah.
So yeah, I think we should talk about the Euros now. I don't think there's any Celtic news of the last week since.
All we've got is maybe Nathan Dyer, but I don't know. Like, it's just a kind of rumor on these websites that don't have any quotes.
Yeah.
So it's
a quiet time just now. I think the thing last week was the season tickets, and they just went out the door rapid. And obviously with the Euros being on, that's kind of holding the focus of football fans all over the place. So
I've seen a bit of kind of like a few people on the huddle board seem to be a bit unsettled by the fact that we're not signing anyone.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, like I would think less of Brendan Rodgers if he signed people without actually looking at our current squad. You know, like
he says that he's watched all our games from last season, which.
But I mean, give him. I would like him to at least have a week in with the guys. Like we start pre-season training Monday. Give him like that week, and then maybe we can move forward from there with signings. You know, but I would like him to. We've got so many players that it'd be good for him to actually see those ones before we decide on anything else.
Yeah. It's not. I mean, it's not like we have many on international duty, so it's only Lustig, and Lustig's injured. So and that's pretty much the only Celtic news I've seen. Is that Lustig's injured, and there's not been any transfer rumours. There's a little boy from Dunfermline.
Is it PJ Crossing or JP Crossing?
Something like that. It sounds like a jock. It sounds like he should be riding horses, to be honest. But anyway, he's only 17, so... But who knows? I think things will start to pick up in the next few weeks.
Definitely. Once he's at work, basically.
When he starts his job. And we have the fixtures are announced on Friday, I think.
I'm looking forward to that.
The fixtures are on Friday, so we'll know, what's happening. And also, within the next couple of weeks, we should know European things as well. So, with regards to like who we're playing and the route that we'll be up against, and this and that, the next thing. So, yeah, it's. I mean, I'm happy to have a little break from it, I guess, for this week. But, I'm wanting to get back into.
Yeah, so the Euros is making me itch a little bit to get back into it, but. So the Euros, how are you enjoying it so far?
Enjoying it as much as I can. I'm missing a lot of the games due to work.
Right.
And I don't have a proper TV at home, and my internet situation is not ideal. But I managed to see... I'm seeing halves of games. Like, I saw the first half of the Germany game. I saw the first half of the Spain game. I saw the second half of the Italy game. And I managed to see... all the games at the weekend. I spent a lot of time watching football at the weekend, but for the last 3 days it's been done. And tomorrow I'm probably going to miss the England and Wales game.
Oh dear.
I know. Well, I mean, who gives a fuck? To be honest, realistically, it doesn't matter to me at all. I don't really care that much. I do hope Wales win.
Are you a big international football fan?
No. Obviously, I'd rather watch club football, but it's something to do during the summer and.
And what about Scotland? Because obviously a lot of Celtic fans have a kind of difficult relationship with Scotland. Are you a Scotland fan or an Ireland fan?
Neither, to be honest. I mean, I want them both to win, but I couldn't give a fuck. I really, really don't care if I really want Ireland to do well because I don't know, but if they lose, I genuinely don't care. Mm-hmm. Same goes with hey. With Scotland, I really don't care. I've been to Scotland games. I lived at Hampden, so I used to get tickets and that, for free or whatever. I lived right next to Hampden, so I don't really give a fuck, to be honest. If Scotland were in the tournament, I'd pay more interest. But I mean, I'm quite happy seeing these. I like watching different players from different leagues and learning about things. So that catches my interest. And as I say, the only Celtic player that was in the tournament was Lustig, who's injured now, and.
I'm convinced that Ronnie Dyler is like a Lustig whisperer.
Yeah.
And that's the only way Lustig can stay fit is just by having Dyler speak to him.
Yeah, just having him on the sideline saying things to him. But
Aye.
I mean, what do you think of the two? I mean, I don't know how many games you've seen, obviously, with work commitments as well. How many games have you managed to catch?
I think the only one I haven't seen is the Portugal-Iceland last night.
I've seen the second half of that as well, unfortunately. Shite.
I managed to, today, I was actually teaching, and I had my laptop on the lectern. And it's just because it wasn't on the beamer, on the projector or anything. Mm-hmm. So I just opened up ARD, which is the German channel that shows it. Just opened up the browser and fucking had the Russia-Slovakia game on while I was teaching.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So I've actually managed to watch quite a lot of them, but I liked the England-Russia game was pretty good. England should have 9 times out of 10 England would have won that. I'm glad they never, but they should have humped them.
I heard an interesting thing that Dyer, Eric Dyer, is it?
Aye.
He's not had a free kick for Spurs at all.
That's right.
I don't think he's ever hit a free kick for them, and he hits one for. I think it's his first free kick goal since he was in Sporting Lisbon, and he's just pinged it in.
Just battered it.
One of the things that made me really laugh last night was when Portugal had those 2 free kicks at the end of the game last night. Did you see this?
No, I never saw it.
There's 35 yards, and it's 3 minutes into injury time. And it was 3 minutes of injury time given, and Ronaldo's doing all his huffing and puffing and this, that, and the next thing, and you're thinking, is he even going to get it on target? And he pings it, and it just comes straight off. It deflects off the wall and goes up in the air, and I'm just like, haha. But it turns out one of the guys in the wall used their hand, so he gets the free kick even closer. And the commentary team are creaming themselves. This is Ronaldo territory. Now they're in danger. This is a real problem. Turns out he's not actually scored a free kick in about 50 attempts in club and country.
I was just listening to the Football Weekly podcast this morning, and in international tournaments he's hit 34 and scored 0.
That's the statistic I'm trying to pull. So I'm pulling it out of my arse, but that's I heard that as well, and it's
mental.
One of these guys, it's just he just
Roberto Carlos basically.
It just annoys me that he feels that he needs to take these free kicks when there's probably someone better at it. But I noticed that Renato Sanchez came off the bench, and he was the youngest ever Portuguese player to play in a major tournament.
I was watching
Ronaldo's record.
I was watching because obviously he's signed for Bayern. I was looking at some of his videos and stuff. He looks a player, man.
Yeah, I mean, so just to ask you a couple of quick questions then regarding the Euros. What's been the best performance?
I think Yogi Love clawing his balls. I think that was the best performance. I don't know. I was quite impressed by Croatia. I was impressed by Croatia. There's a lot of plaudits being given to Italy. Italy did well as well, but to an extent where they were kind of not expected to, and obviously they've got the kind of BBC defence. But in the end, Belgium missed maybe 5 fucking clear-cut chances. Yeah, I know you need to put them away, but another team probably will. Yeah, it's I think Italy, a team of pretty much, I wouldn't say misfits, but Graziano Pelli, Eder, Parolo, Giaccherini. I mean, he was barely getting a game for Sunderland a couple of seasons ago. He wasn't getting a game for Sunderland. So I think the Italy performance is the one that everyone's like, oh my god, it's amazing, it's Italy, but you have to feel sorry for them as well, because they never had Verratti and they didn't have Marchisio. You know what I mean? Like if you put them into that midfield, that means you've got a solid 3-man defence, you've got a solid goalkeeper, and you've got a solid central midfield. I mean, they wouldn't really need much more than that, to win the tournament. So. They don't really have a great striker just now. No, but I mean, Graziano Pelli's always going to finish if the chance comes along, you know what I mean? So I would have taken Totti. I would have taken him. Get him on the plane. Well, he wasn't up for taking Giovinco, who's playing over in America, Canada now, to be more specific. He said that I think Conte said anyone that goes to America can forget about their international career. So I think not the Germany, but the Italian game was I don't really want to talk about it anymore because it's been done to death. But the Croatia performance I was really impressed with. I was really disappointed with Turkey. I thought they were better than that. I think my brother's actually got a tenner on the Croatia at 25-1 to win the tournament, and I can see where he gets that confidence from, because when you've got a midfield of Rakitic and Modric, you know what I mean, it's always going to have some kind of quality about it. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I actually enjoyed Poland as well. I mean, even though they only get the one goal against Northern Ireland, they've got so many good players.
Yeah.
And I think it says a lot about Scotland that when you look at Poland and you look at Germany and you look at Republic of Ireland, who drew one each and were basically winning for a lot of the game against Sweden, and we had those three teams in our qualifying group.
Yeah.
And then when you look at Northern Ireland, they get through basically with fuck all in their group. You know, it was a weird qualifying section. So,
and it's just typical Scotland to be drawn with
bastard teams.
Yeah, bastard teams. So, I think for me, I really enjoy. I was disappointed with Turkey. Like I had high hopes for Arda. He's the focal point. That team wasn't very good.
He kicked somebody early on, didn't he? No, it was somebody else.
He got booked. He got booked. No, he got subbed. And the wee guy that I think he came on for him was Emre Mor, who has
Dortmund
now
player.
just signed for Dortmund. He's actually Danish, but I had no idea who this wee guy was. And then I watched him. I was like, this wee guy's fucking good. Turns out Dortmund have signed him. I was like, that makes sense. But they were disappointing. Probably the best game that I watched was the Germany game.
The Germany game was
really
good.
Enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it.
Tony Kroos was. I think early on in his career when he was at Bayern, I underrated him a little bit, but that was a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, he pulled the string. He was just pulling the strings, man.
And that pass in the first half, that was Pirlo-esque.
Yeah,
you know, that just was. And I just can't believe that people like Real Madrid are talking about like him plus 100 million for Pogba. I don't get that at all.
Pogba never even started tonight. I don't even know if he came off the bench.
He came off the bench and he set up the second goal, but I don't know. For me, it would be if I was swapping those two players, it would be Pogba plus cash for Kroos.
Yeah,
you know,
Kroos has won everything. Like,
he's won everything. He's only 26 years old as well.
He's not won this tournament he's in just now, but he's won everything else. So he's only 26 years old. So I thought Germany were really good. I really enjoyed watching Germany. The other results...
That clearance, before we go on, that clearance from Boateng was amazing.
Yeah, Boateng. It's been spoken about quite a lot. Some clearance. Republic of Ireland game, missed that at the game, saw a bit of that. Germany, Ukraine, Turkey. Yeah, so I'm pretty much seen probably over half the games if you want to look at. I only saw the first half of the Spain game, then I had to go to work. But apparently Iniesta was just unbelievable.
It was, but I text you saying your team's shite. Basically because I had fucking a coupon on with him. And see, betting in Spain, man, you start screaming at the telly, shoot, just fucking shoot. Because at one point, I think it was Nolito, was actually literally trying to walk into the net with the ball. Yeah. And I was like, just fucking hit the ball.
It was a really interesting starting 11 that Bill Bosque went with, because they were playing Nolito and Morata, but I think they were playing Nolito on the wide left and they were playing Morata through the middle with David Silva on the other side, which on paper is amazing, but I'm pretty sure Nolito plays more up front for Celtic Vigo.
Nolito didn't really work. He didn't have a good game.
Yeah, but, and I don't think Morata's prolific, but they say that he scores big goals, but the statistics say that Spain score very few goals, and it's a real problem for Spain finding a striker. The way that they've progressed and they've developed in the past decade even is mainly around the passing thing, to the detriment of strikers. You know, like they seem to be they're definitely lacking a striker. Obviously, everyone says since David Villa, which is true, but they're so overloaded in midfield that it's like a striker just doesn't get a chance to grow there.
It's not just a Spanish problem, but I mean, when you look at like fucking
Germany,
we've got the Götze up front, and he was appalling.
Yeah, Götze, but So I was happy with the Germany result. I thought they were quite good. Hopefully tomorrow I can see some more games, and obviously over the weekend I'll try and catch as many games as I can. But I finish up work next week, so I'll be able to watch as much football as I can, and I'm looking forward to that. And then obviously the Celtic news will be announced soon, the qualifiers and the league fixtures. So yeah, it's been I've
just been arranging nights out with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
When the games are not as good. So, like, I saw last night when it was Portugal-Iceland, because I wasn't really that interested in it. I was looking at the kind of next few nights of fixtures, and I was like, I don't want to like miss those games. So I said to like Saturday night, because it's only like Portugal-Austria. So I thought, like, okay,
yeah, quite crafty.
Yeah, you have to do that kind of shit when you're watching the Euros or the World Cup. So
yeah.
So I guess that's us for this week. If you do have anything you want to say to us, or if you have anything you want to kind of recommend for us to look at, then you can get in touch with us at Twitter, which is at Boys Abroad, or we can email us at historyboys@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, Tony?
Nope. Bedtime.
Sonar tomorrow.
Yep.
How long does it take for you to get there?
It's taking in the car. It's 6 hours to get to, like, from central Madrid to central Barcelona. 6 hours, and that, like, you'll have a break in between. So. And
it's like, have you ever been to it before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like a kind of like a Celtic Park type fest? No, I know the bands are not the same, but is it like an all-day thing like that? Or
it's not real. There's an all-day thing, but there's no like campsite. I don't think there's a campsite or anything. It's just like you get a hotel and you go to it and go back to your hotel. There's no like camping involved. I'm not camping anyway. I've got a hotel booked. So
last time I went to Barcelona, I got my round in a place just off Las Ramblas, and it was €20, and for free beers. And my mate got his round, and he went to a supermarket and got a crate of like 20 Estrella Damm for €5 or something like that.
Yeah, Barcelona's an expensive place. It's probably the most expensive city in all of Spain.
Aye.
In my opinion, yeah. I mean, yeah. But yeah, so not tomorrow morning.
Cool. Right, well, thanks for listening. It'd be really cool if you could, like, go... I'm sounding American again, I'm sorry. It'd be really good if you could go into iTunes and give us, like, a 5-star review. That'd be ideal. And maybe tell some other Celtic fans who listen to podcasts to tune into us. That'd be cool. So until next week, see ya.
Cheers.
Settle down, they must be taken in hand. A crack on the head is what you get for not asking. And a crack on the head is what you get for asking. Taken in hand. Unruly girls who will not settle down, they must be taken in hand. A crack on the head is what you get for not asking. And a crack on the head is what you get for asking. A crack on the head is what you get for